The greatest tragedy in the spiritual life is not that we fail, but that we quit one moment before the miracle happens. I know some of you are standing in front of a door that refuses to open right now. Your knuckles are bruised from knocking. Your voice is hoarse from praying. And the silence is making you question if God is even there. But I have a message for you today. Your breakthrough is often standing right behind the moment you want to give up the most. We are going to look at a man who almost missed his destiny because he didn't like God's method. He was a man who had everything on the outside, but was dying on the inside. His story is the ultimate proof that God saves the best for the very last dip. To understand this, we need to travel back to the bustling, vibrant city of Damascus in the 9th century BC. We need to meet a general who carried a secret that no amount of armor could hide. Part 1. The General and the Secret Sorrow. Imagine with me, if you will, the bustling, vibrant city of Damascus in the 9th century BC. The sun beats down on the white limestone walls, making the city glow like a pearl in the desert. The air is filled with the scent of spices, saffron, cinnamon, and frankincense, wafting from the busy markets. The sounds of metal clashing against metal ring out from the training grounds. This is a city of power, the capital of Aram, a nation that fears no one, and at the center of this power stands a man named Naaman. I want you to picture him. He is not just a soldier, he is the commander of the army of the king of Syria. History tells us he was a great man in the sight of his master and highly regarded. Imagine a man with broad shoulders, standing tall in polished bronze armor that gleams blindingly under the Middle Eastern sun. When he walks through the streets of Damascus, the crowds part like the Red Sea. Children stop their games to stare in awe. Merchants bow low. He is the hero of the nation, the man who brought victory to Syria. By the Lord's hand he had saved his people. He has wealth, he has honor, he has the ear of the king. He is the definition of success. But my friend, there is a door in Naaman's life that is tightly shut. A dark, heavy door that blocks out all the light of his public victories. The Bible gives us a chilling description in just a few words. He was a valiant soldier, but he had leprosy. Let us pause and really feel the weight of that word. In those days, leprosy was not just a disease, it was a death sentence. It was a slow, agonizing erosion of the body. It meant isolation. It meant shame. Imagine Naaman returning home after a glorious military parade. The cheers of the thousands are still ringing in his ears. He walks into his private chambers, the heavy cedar doors closing behind him, shutting out the adoration of the world. He slowly unbuckles his sword. He unclasps his heavy breastplate. And as the armor falls away, the truth is revealed. He looks in the bronze mirror and sees the white, patchy sores spreading across his skin. Perhaps he sees the loss of sensation in his fingers, the very fingers that grip the sword of victory. Underneath the golden armor, his body is rotting. Can you feel his desperation? Every morning he wakes up hoping it was a nightmare, only to look at his skin and see that the enemy is still there. This is an enemy he cannot kill with a sword. He cannot command it to leave. All his medals, all his trophies, all the applause of the king mean absolutely nothing when he is alone in the dark with his pain. He likely tried everything. The best physicians in Damascus, the most potent herbal remedies from the traders of the East, the prayers of the Syrian priests to their idols. But the door remained shut. The silence of heaven was deafening. He is a man who is used to kicking doors down, but this is one door he cannot force open. Maybe you know that feeling. Maybe you are standing there right now. You have tried to be strong for everyone else. You wear your armor well. You smile at work. You take care of your family. You say the right things. But when you are alone, when the door is closed, you look at your reality, a broken marriage, a prodigal child, a financial pit, a diagnosis, and you feel utterly helpless. You feel like Naaman. A public success, but a private sufferer. Naaman was likely at the point of resignation. Why keep hoping? Why keep trying? The disease would eventually consume him. He would be cast out from the city he saved, forced to live in the wilderness, ringing a bell and shouting, "Unclean, unclean," to warn people to stay away. The hero would become the outcast. The despair must have been a heavy, suffocating blanket. But my friend, God often hides the key to our biggest miracles in the smallest, most unlikely places. While Naaman is staring at the closed door of his impossible situation, he doesn't realize that the handle is beginning to turn. And it doesn't come from a king, or a prophet, or a thunderous voice from the sky. It comes from a whisper. In his household there was a young girl, a captive, a slave from Israel. She had lost her home, her freedom, and her family because of Naaman's army. By all rights, she should have hated him. She should have wished for his demise. But grace is a mysterious thing. This little girl, whose name we do not even know, saw the pain behind the general's armor. She saw the tears he thought he hid so well. And one day, while serving Naaman's wife, she spoke words that would change history. She said, "If only my master would see the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him of his leprosy." Just like that, a seed of hope dropped into the dry soil of despair. Naaman had a choice, right then. He could have ignored her. Who listens to a slave girl? Who listens to a captive from a defeated nation? Pride could have kept that door locked forever. But desperation has a way of making us humble, doesn't it? Desperation opens our ears to frequencies we usually ignore. Naaman decided to try one more time. He decided to knock on one more door. He went to the king of Syria and repeated the girl's words. And the king, loving his general, gave him permission to go. He loaded him up with talents of silver, thousands of shekels of gold, and 10 sets of clothing. Naaman is setting out on a journey. He thinks he is going to buy a miracle. He thinks he is going to impress the God of Israel with his wealth and his chariots. He doesn't yet understand that the door he is approaching opens outward, not inward. He is about to learn that the way up is down. And to understand how this mighty warrior found his way to a dusty road in Israel, and the struggle of pride that almost cost him everything, let us move directly into the next part of our journey. Part 2, the wrong door. Money can't buy miracles. So the caravan sets off. Can you hear the rumble of the chariot wheels against the cobblestones? Can you see the dust rising in great clouds behind them as they leave the fertile oasis of Damascus and head toward the rugged hills of Samaria? This was not a quiet trip. This was a spectacle. Naaman brought horses, chariots, and servants. The sun glinted off the chests of silver and gold. It was a parade of power marching toward a hope for healing. But I want you to notice something profound here. Naaman is carrying a fortune. In today's terms, the gold and silver he packed would be worth millions of dollars. He is bringing his resume, his reputation, and his riches to pay for his miracle. He believes that the favor of God is something that can be bought, negotiated, or earned. He thinks the door to his healing will open if he just pushes hard enough with his wallet. How often do we do that? We try to bargain with God. We say, "Lord, I will be a better person. I will give more money. I will do more work. Just fix this problem." We try to impress the creator of the universe with our little achievements. Naaman arrives first at the palace of the king of Israel. He doesn't go to the prophet's house. He goes to the palace. Why? Because in Naaman's world, important matters are handled by important people in high places. Kings talk to kings. Generals talk to generals. He hands over the letter from the king of Syria. Imagine the silence in the throne room as the king of Israel reads this. The color drains from his face. His hands start to tremble. He looks at the powerful Syrian general standing there, surrounded by his elite guards, and panic sets in. The king of Israel tears his royal robes in sheer frustration and fear. He cries out, "Am I God? Can I kill and bring back to life? Why does this fellow send someone to me to be cured of his leprosy? See how he is trying to pick a quarrel with me." The king misses the point entirely. He sees a political trap. He sees a threat of war. He looks at the problem, leprosy, and looks at his own resources and realizes he is bankrupt. He cannot open this door. He is the king, yet he is powerless. It is a moment of total hopelessness in the palace. the most powerful men in the land, are standing in a room, paralyzed by a problem they cannot solve. But news travels fast. Elisha, the man of God, the rough prophet who lives not in a palace but likely in a simple, humble dwelling, hears about the king's meltdown, and I love the calmness of Elisha. While the king is tearing his clothes, Elisha is likely sitting peacefully. He sends a message to the king. "Why have you torn your robes? Have the man come to me, and he will know that there is a prophet in Israel. Send him to me." So Naaman turns his horses and chariots around. He leaves the marble floors of the palace and heads down to the humble house of Elisha. Imagine the scene. This massive military procession, which usually rides through wide boulevards, is now navigating the narrow, dusty lanes of a residential neighborhood. They pull up in front of Elisha's house. The horses stomp their hooves, restless in the heat. The chariots creak to a halt. Naaman stands tall in his chariot, waiting. He expects Elisha to come running out. He expects the prophet to be honored that the great general Naaman has graced his doorstep. He has the script all written out in his head. He expects a ceremony. He expects Elisha to come out, wave his hands over the leprosy, call on the name of the Lord loudly, and perform a dramatic miracle worthy of Naaman's status. He is waiting for the red carpet, but the door of the house stays shut. Minutes pass. The sun beats down. The flies buzz around the horses. The servants shift uncomfortably. Naaman's patience is wearing thin. This is an insult. He is the commander of Syria. He doesn't wait for people. People wait for him. Finally, the door opens. But it isn't Elisha who steps out. It is a servant, a messenger. Naaman probably leans forward, expecting an invitation to come inside for a banquet. But the messenger simply looks up at the man in the golden armor and delivers a prescription that sounds absolutely ridiculous. "Go, wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan, and your flesh will be restored and you will be cleansed." That's it. The messenger turns and goes back inside. The door shuts. Naaman is left staring at the closed wood. He is stunned. He is baffled. And then he is furious. You see, the Jordan River was not a beautiful, crystal-clear body of water. It was muddy. It was dirty. It was narrow. Compared to the rushing, pristine rivers of Damascus, the Abana and Pharpar, the Jordan was a ditch. Naaman is insulted on every level. His pride is attacked. He expected a grand ritual, and he got a prescription to take a bath in a muddy river. He expected personal attention from the prophet, and he got a servant. He expected something difficult and heroic, and he got something simple and humiliating. The rage boils over. Naaman signals his driver to turn the chariot around. He shouts, "I thought that he would surely come out to me." He starts listing the better rivers back home. He says, "Couldn't I wash in them and be cleansed?" So he turned and went off in a rage. He is leaving. He is turning his back on his miracle. He is walking away from the only door that can save him because he doesn't like the handle. He doesn't like the method. He is letting his pride convince him that he would rather die a leper with his dignity than be healed through humility. How often do we do this? We pray for an answer, and God sends it packaged in a way we don't like. We want a lightning bolt, and God gives us a slow process. We want a promotion, and God gives us a lesson in patience. We want the easy way, and God points us to the muddy river. Naaman is storming off, his miracle literally within his reach, but he is blinded by his own expectations. He is riding away, back toward the border, back toward his death sentence. The dust is rising again, but this time it is the dust of anger and defeat. It seems the story is over. It seems the door will remain closed forever. But thank God for the voices of reason in our lives. Thank God for the people who love us enough to speak truth to our anger. As the horses pick up speed, Naaman's servants, those who know him, those who care for him, glance at each other. They know they have to do something. They have to stop him. And as we watch the dust settle around this tense standoff on the road, let us prepare to see what happens when pride collides with wise counsel in the next part of our story. Part 3. the voice of reason and the death of ego. So there he is, Naaman, fuming in his chariot, the horses kicking up dust, heading back toward Syria. He is choosing his pride over his healing. He is choosing to remain a leper rather than look foolish. The tension in the air is thick enough to cut with a knife. The soldiers are silent, afraid to speak to their enraged commander. But thank God for people who love us enough to interrupt our mistakes. Naaman's servants approach him, and I want you to notice the incredible tenderness in how they address him. They do not say General, or Sir, or Your Excellency. In the original text, they use a word that reveals the depth of their relationship. They say, my Father, if the prophet had told you to do some great thing, would you not have done it? How much more then, when he tells you wash and be cleansed? Stop and think about the wisdom in that question. It cuts right through the fog of Naaman's anger. If Elisha had asked Naaman to climb the highest mountain, slay a dragon, or give away half his fortune, Naaman would have done it in a heartbeat. Why? Because difficult tasks feed our ego. They allow us to say, look what I did. Look how much I sacrificed. I earned this miracle. But to wash in a muddy river, that requires no strength. That requires no skill. It requires only humility. And for a man like Naaman, humility is much harder than heroism. Naaman pulls on the reins. The chariot stops. He looks at his servants. He looks at the dusty road ahead leading to a life of slow death. And then he looks back at the Jordan River winding through the valley. This is the moment of surrender. This is the moment the door begins to unlock. Naaman steps down from his chariot. And now begins the most painful part of the process. Before he can get into the water, he has to take off his armor. I want you to visualize this slowly. He unbuckles the sword that has won him so many battles. He unlaces the heavy bronze breastplate that signifies his rank and power. He removes the fine linen robes. With every piece of clothing he removes, he is removing his identity. He is removing his protection. And worst of all, he is revealing his secret. As the armor drops to the ground, his soldiers can see the leprosy. They can see the rotting flesh, the white spots, the decay. He is standing there, on the bank of the river, completely exposed. He is no longer the great General Naaman. He is just a naked, broken man in desperate need of God. This is why so many of us miss our miracle. We are willing to go to church. We are willing to give money. We are willing to serve. But we are terrified to be vulnerable. We are terrified to take off our armor and let God and others see our true condition. But you cannot wash what you do not reveal. Naaman walks down the muddy bank. The mud squishes between his toes. It is undignified. It is messy. He wades into the brown, swirling water. It is likely cold. He walks out until the water is waist deep. He is standing in the very place he despised. He is standing in the place of obedience. And now the instruction was specific. Wash 7 times. Not once. Not twice. 7 times. Why 7? Because 7 is the number of completion in the Bible, but also because God was testing his perseverance. God was breaking the last remnants of his pride. So Naaman takes a deep breath. He holds his nose, perhaps, and plunges under the water for the first time. He comes up gasping for air, wiping the muddy water from his eyes. He looks at his arm. Nothing. The sores are still there. The skin is still white and dead. He goes down a second time. He comes up. Still nothing. Can you imagine the whispers of doubt creeping into his mind? This is foolish. I am a general of Syria, bobbing up and down in a ditch like a child. Nothing is happening. This prophet is mocking me. 3rd time. Nothing. 4th time. Nothing. 5th time. Still nothing. Most of us would have quit by now. We would say, I tried. I prayed for 5 days. I went to counseling for 5 weeks. Nothing changed. It doesn't work. We stop at the 5th dip. We stop right before the breakthrough. But Naaman, perhaps urged on by the silent prayers of his servants on the shore, stays in the water. He goes down for the 6th time. I imagine him staying under a little longer this time. Maybe he is crying underwater. Maybe he is finally letting go of everything, his reputation, his anger, his need for control. He surfaces. He checks his skin. It is still leprous. He has obeyed 90% of the way and seen 0% of the results. That is how faith often works. You do not see a partial healing with every step. Often you see absolutely nothing until the very end. He stands there shivering, dripping wet. One more time. The number 7. This is it. It is all or nothing. To witness what happens when a man goes all the way with God, when he pushes through the silence of the 6th dip to find the miracle of the 7th, let us hold our breath and move to the next part of our story. Part 4. The miracle at the bottom of the river. My friend, we are now at the climax of the story. Naaman is standing in the Jordan River. He has dipped 6 times. He is wet, he is cold, and he is still a leper. Logic tells him that if 6 washes didn't do anything, the 7th won't either. But faith is not about logic, it is about obedience. He takes a deep breath. He looks at his servants on the shore one last time. They are watching with bated breath, their hands clasped in prayer. Naaman bends his knees. The water rises up his chest, up his neck, over his chin, and finally over his head. For a moment he is completely submerged. The world above disappears. The sounds of the birds and the wind are replaced by the muffled rush of the river. Down here, in the dark and the mud, Naaman is nothing. He is not a general. He is not a wealthy man. He is just a soul surrendering to the instruction of God. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. He pushes off the riverbed. He breaks the surface of the water with a splash, gasping for air, shaking the water from his face. He wipes his eyes. He looks down at his hands. I want you to imagine the shock that jolts through his body like electricity. The white spots are gone. He looks at his arms. The open sores that had plagued him for years have vanished. He runs his hands over his chest, his face. There are no rough patches. There is no numbness. The Bible uses a very specific, beautiful phrase to describe this moment. It says his flesh was restored like the flesh of a little child. Think about that. It wasn't just that the leprosy was gone. His skin wasn't like the skin of a 50-year-old warrior, scarred from battles and sun. It was soft. It was new. It was new. It was fresh. God didn't just patch him up. God pressed the reset button. He gave him a new beginning. He gave him an innocence he thought he had lost forever. A shout surely erupts from the river. Naaman is probably laughing and crying at the same time. He splashes the water, the same water he called a ditch just an hour ago, into the air in pure joy. His servants on the shore are cheering, hugging each other, tears streaming down their faces. The heavy cloud of death that hung over them has evaporated. Naaman wades out of the river. He doesn't walk with the heavy burdened step of a sick man anymore. He bounds up the bank with the energy of a young boy. He grabs his clothes, but I bet he doesn't even want to put the armor back on. Why cover up what God has cleansed? But the change isn't just on his skin. Something has happened in his heart. The pride is gone. The arrogance is washed away down the river. He climbs back into his chariot, but this time he heads straight back to the house of Elisha. And notice the difference. The first time he went, he expected Elisha to come out to him. This time he goes to Elisha. He stands before the man of God, not as a superior, but as a believer. He makes a declaration that rings through the corridors of history. He says, "Now I know that there is no God in all the earth except in Israel." The door that was shut tight has swung wide open, but it wasn't the gold that opened it. It wasn't his rank. It wasn't his anger. It was his willingness to try one more time. It was his willingness to do the small, humble thing. He tries to give Elisha the gold and silver, but Elisha refuses. The prophet wants Naaman to understand that you cannot buy the grace of God. It is a gift. It is free. Naaman leaves that place, not just with a healed body, but with a healed soul. He takes 2 mule loads of dirt from Israel back to Syria, so he can worship the God of Israel on his own soil. He is a changed man forever. My friend, this is such a powerful moment. But what does this mean for you, sitting there right now, staring at your own closed door? What does the muddy Jordan River have to do with your financial struggle, your health battle, or your broken relationship? To answer that, and to wrap up our time together with a final encouragement that I hope will stay with you for the rest of your life, let us move to the final part of our journey. Part 5, the 7th dip and your open door. So here we are, my friend, at the end of our journey together. We have walked the dusty road from Damascus to Israel. We have felt the weight of the heavy armor and the sting of pride. We have stood by the muddy banks of the Jordan River, and we have seen the impossible happen. But before we part ways, I want to sit with you for just a moment longer and look at what this story truly means for you, right here, right now. Why did God make Naaman dip 7 times? Why not just once? Was God playing games? Was he trying to torture the poor man? Absolutely not. You see, the miracle was never about the water. If the water had magic power, every leper in Israel would have been jumping in the Jordan. The miracle was in the obedience. The miracle was in the persistence. God knew that Naaman had a disease of the body, but he also had a disease of the soul called pride. And the only cure for pride is a process. It takes time. The first dip was for his anger. The second dip was for his reputation. The third dip was for his logic. The fourth dip was for his control. The fifth dip was for his doubt. The sixth dip was for his fear. And the seventh dip was for his faith. I am speaking to someone right now who is stuck at dip number 6. You have been praying for that child to come home, and nothing has changed. You have been working on that business, sending out resumes, knocking on doors, and all you see is mud. You are tired. You are cold. You feel foolish. You are ready to climb out of the river, put your armor back on, and accept that this is just how life is going to be. Please, I beg you, do not get out of the water. Your miracle is not miles away. It is 1 dip away. It is just behind the door of that next act of obedience. The story of Naaman tells us that God often hides his greatest blessings in the places we least want to go. He hides them in the humble places. He hides them in the simple instructions. Maybe your Jordan River isn't a literal river. Maybe for you, the muddy water is simply forgiving that person who hurt you. It is painful, it feels unfair, and you don't want to do it. But that is where your healing is. Maybe your Jordan River is apologizing to your spouse when you know you were right. Maybe it is taking that low-paying job while you wait for the big career break. Maybe it is serving in the background when you are used to being in the spotlight. It feels like going down. It feels like dying. But in the kingdom of God, the way up is always down. If Naaman had stopped at 6 times, he would have gone home a leper. He would have missed his destiny by 1 single moment of faith. Don't let that be your story. You might be standing in front of a closed door today. You have pounded on it with your fists. You have tried to pick the lock with your skills. You have tried to buy the key with your money, and it is still shut. I want to suggest to you that the door isn't locked. It is just that the handle is too low for you to reach while you are standing tall in your pride. You have to kneel. You have to bend down. You have to wash in the river of grace. Don't give up. The silence you are hearing right now is not a no from God. It is the silence between the 6th and the 7th dip. It is the deep breath before the breakthrough. Your flesh becomes like that of a child. That is the promise. New life, new innocence, new hope. It is waiting for you. So wash, believe, trust, and do it one more time. Thank you for letting me share this story with you. May you find the courage to stay in the water until your miracle comes. Until we meet again, may peace be with you.